I'm going to talk about scanning 100,000 microfilm rolls for a court system. You may not have 100,000 microfilm rolls and you may not be a court system, and that's completely okay because the lessons learned from a project like this are absolutely applicable to other projects, even smaller ones. This one is just on a larger scale, so it's fun to talk about. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the project scoping. In general, most microfilm projects are maybe a couple hundred rolls or a few thousand rolls. So this one is very, very large. It's kind of abnormal. There are not many 100,000 microfilm roll projects. So this one was a little outside the norm. And because there were so many rolls of microfilm, that means there are going to be a lot of different document types, or what we just call doc types. So doc is short for document. Basically, it means when you have 100,000 rolls, there are different types of information on those rolls. So they're separated by doc type. And because it's a court system, these were broken up into things like juvenile records or criminal cases, things like that. They're split up into different doc types. So that was a big part of the project scoping, is to make sure that not only we scan them into their proper doc type, but into the proper region that they came from. So this county court system was broke up into various regions. It's a very large county. So not only do we have the type of data like criminal files or criminal cases, but they're gonna be broken up into something like X region of that county or Y region of that county. So that's a big part of the project scoping for this project because of the quantity of material. Now, because of that, there had to be a very detailed analysis of where everything's gonna go, because part of this is making sure that our production team, when we get the material, knows how to scan it, where to scan it, what to do with it, because these are gonna require different, what we call process flows of how to scan the microfilm and then process it into a digital format and get it to the right end location, the right type of deliverable. So there's a detailed analysis that was required to separate the doc types, understand the different types of materials, and prepare for the actual scanning project itself. A key part of this was we had 3 of our account executives working as a team to make sure we could handle this project. So having 3 of them that have the expertise to work together and plot out the project to make sure it was planned right and that it would be executed properly was essential to getting this kicked off right. Okay, now we're gonna talk about logistics. And there's that old saying, amateurs think strategy, professionals think logistics. And that is absolutely the case when you have a massive project like this. Logistics is key because you have the best plan in the world, but if you can't execute it, you're gonna have issues. So having that logistical plan in place to actually execute the project was essential to get this kicked off right. Part of that logistical process was we're not just gonna dive into scanning the rolls without having a good plan in place. We have our M1 process, our milestone 1 proof of concept process. So for this project, because I don't know, I think there were maybe 25 or 30 different doc types, I can't remember, but we took a few microfilm rolls from each doc type and created the process flows and ran those rolls through our M1 process, which is basically creating the unique process flow, running a small batch, couple rolls from each doc type through that process flow, testing it and making sure that it's gonna work, and then reviewing that with our client and making sure that they approve of the process. The M1 is essential because what we're gonna do is build the actual process flow for the project that we're gonna use for those 100,000 rolls, and we're gonna run that small sample through there to make sure that our assumptions are correct, that we built the process flow correctly, but also critically to make sure that our client sees the end result and approves that. So we don't do the whole project, deliver something, they say, well, wait a second, that's not what I wanted. So the M1 process across 20, 30 different document types, that many process flows, was a big part of this process and getting it on the right track. Once the different milestones started getting approved, we had to, of course, do the actual execution of the project, get those rolls scanned. And that included multiple pickups. So we're not gonna pick up 100,000 rolls at once and scan them all. The capacity for that is insane. So what we did is break this up into monthly pickups of roughly 5,000 to 6,000 rolls. So we'd just choose a doc type and get, let's say, 5,000 rolls a month. We'd go pick them up, bring them back to our facility, scan them, go pick up another batch and kind of start layering those pickups. So we deliver rolls, pick up more rolls, deliver rolls, pick up more rolls. So we got a nice flow of getting 5,000 to 6,000 rolls a month scanned and getting those doc types completed. And then another part of logistics was the purchase order process. So we do a lot of government work. There's a court system, a county court system. So they had purchase orders, but it wasn't just one massive purchase order. There were actually multiple purchase orders. So we had to tie in our scanning and make sure we stayed within each purchase order and kind of plot the project around that. So we didn't go over the PO until we got the next PO to continue scanning. So that was another piece of the logistics puzzle that we had to work with. And of course with logistics, because there's a lot of movement, 5,000, 6,000 rolls a month, multiple pickups and deliveries, massive scanning effort, a lot of document types, a lot of processing and doing the back end and actually working with the digital images and delivering them. All this ties into good communication. So that was absolutely critical for our sales team, the 3 account executives working on this project, was to have communication with the client and our team, our transportation team, our project team, the client's team. All of those had to work together to make this flow smoothly. So communication, not just for a large scale project like this, but any project, communication is absolutely essential. Another thing with such a large project is our client had to access these records to actually use them for their job while we were scanning them a lot of times. So if we have 5,000-6,000 rolls with us and they need to access them, you might be thinking, yeah, what do? They don't have the film, you have it, it's not their facility. What are they gonna do? How are they gonna get those records to provide them for whatever they need to do for their job? Well, that's a great question, because we actually have a tool that we created called BRS. It stands for BMI Request System. Very clever. And what it is it's an online portal, secure online portal that we created, where we set up an account for our clients. And what they do is they submit a request, and it tags and it alerts our team to say, okay, client X has a request and they need whatever information they need from a certain role. So what the client will do is identify the doc type, the region for this particular one. We're talking regions, doc types, and whatnot. So from this region, this doc type, we need the role that has, XYZ on it. So then our folks, they prioritize that request, go find the role, scan it, and basically get it pushed to the front of the line so we can provide that request to the client. So that's all done through our BRS system. So the client didn't have to worry about, what do I do with my film? I can't get to, I need to fulfill my duties. We have BRS so we can help you take care of that while the film is out of your hands. That was a large part of this project too, because there were, with so many roles and a large court system with so many requests, we kept getting pings on BRS to fulfill these requests. So it allows our client to access that information while we're doing the scanning, but also incentivizes us to keep the project moving so we can get these done so they don't have to even use BRS. They can use the final deliverable product. Another pretty cool aspect of this project was that we provided our digital reel secure hosted platform to the client through the project and for a certain amount of time after the different batch deliveries. So we were tying back to the purchase orders. For, let's say, purchase order 1, they would receive our digital reel platform from the time we finished purchase order 1 and for like an additional 2 months or so. And that was part of the project. So if we're delivering the traditional method of images like PDFs, TIFFs, I can't remember what it was, but if we're delivering that kind of product at the end, you have to wait till, let's say, those 5,000 rolls are scanned so we can deliver it on a hard drive or through SFTP. With digital reel though, as we scan, each roll that's finalized and processed is immediately available in our hosted system, so our clients could access those right away, not have to wait for the PDFs to be delivered. So that was a benefit first off. Second was it's a redundant backup solution. So although they had a plan to load the final, the PDF images, the cropped images to a system that they were building, this could have been used as a backup throughout the project and even beyond, even if they moved those PDFs to their system. So they would still have a backup if they decided to use it. Now, coincidentally, because they had used the product throughout the project and they became so used to it and found the benefit of it, it became a primary system for accessing the roles, which they're still using today, even after the project completed and passed that initial timeline. They decided to move forward and use digital reel as their primary access system. An aspect of this particular project that is worth mentioning is the compromised microfilm. So with microfilm, it can actually deteriorate and decay over time, and especially with large projects, you're usually going to find something weird about the film or something that's gone wrong with pieces of it or parts of it. So of that 100,000 microfilm rolls, there are, I think, a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 or so, that we considered compromised. Basically, it had vinegar syndrome. It's called that because the microfilm starts to deteriorate and it gets a vinegary smell. So it's just called vinegar syndrome. With vinegar syndrome, there's not much you can do. It can actually affect other rolls. It's kind of contagious. So you want to quarantine it away from other microfilms so it doesn't affect it. But you also don't want to let it continue to degrade, because after time, you might just lose the information. There's nothing you can do if it degrades enough. So we talked to the client and we decided, your film may get damaged or destroyed while it's scanned, but it's probably better to do this anyway and try to scan it, because if you don't, it's going to degrade and you're going to lose the information no matter what. So our client, we worked with them, we worked out a process where we would attempt to scan the microfilm so we could capture that data before it got too late and just became lost to deterioration. So with the compromised microfilm was another aspect of this. We had to create a whole new process flow for special checking, special scanning of these particular rolls to make sure that we could try to scan them and try to process them to preserve that data. And lastly on this project, I mentioned Digital Reel already. They were using our system, they were using the global text search, the enhancement of images, which is great for microfilm because a lot of times you're gonna have images that are just poor quality. So Digital Reel allows enhancement and brightness and contrast and everything that goes into that just using the system. But something that happened that actually sort of saved the day for our client was they had a ransomware attack across their county systems, at least in the court system. And our client relayed to us that when they were hit by that ransomware attack, there was basically a complete shutdown of their systems. They couldn't use them except Digital Reel. Digital Reel was not part of their systems. It was not affected by this attack. And the court systems staff were able to use Digital Reel for about a week while their systems were down to continue serving their clients, their constituents, and providing requests, providing information to law enforcement agencies, whoever needed it. So for an entire week, Digital Reel allowed them to stay up and running and continue doing their work. So that's a pretty cool story of how our client said, hey, this thing kept us alive for the week while everything else was down from a ransomware attack. So security, access, ability to adjust images, search for items, Digital Reel secure hosted platform, great for this client. We're great we were able to provide that for them. So that's how we worked with the court system to scan 100,000 of their microfilm rolls. Now, if you're wondering how do you pay for a project like this, massive project, or just any digital conversion project, you can watch this video here that gives you a couple ways to think about paying for a digital scanning project. The link will be in the description, and thank you for watching.